Dr. Lisa Grant stared at the readings on her screen and felt her heart stop. The numbers made no sense. Something massive was moving through space toward human territory, something bigger than any ship humanity had ever built. She ran the scan 3 more times, hoping the computer had made an error. Each time, the results came back the same. The research station Meridian floated quietly in the darkness between stars. For 2 years, Lisa and her team had studied the strange energy readings in this remote sector. The quantum anomalies here defied explanation. They appeared and disappeared without warning, leaving behind traces of exotic matter that shouldn't exist. Now her instruments were picking up something far more dangerous than mysterious energy waves. Commander Jake Morrison was checking security reports in his office when Lisa burst through the door. Her face was pale, and her hands shook as she held out a datapad. "Jake, we need to contact Earth immediately," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Look at these readings." Jake took the pad and studied the display. He had spent 15 years in the Earth Defense Fleet before taking this assignment. He knew how to read sensor data. What he saw made his blood run cold. The signature was unmistakably artificial and impossibly large. "How many ships are we talking about?" he asked. "The computer estimates over 10,000 vessels. The largest ones are the size of small moons." Jake activated the station's emergency communication system. Within minutes, every human outpost and military base received the same urgent message. An unknown fleet was approaching human space from the galactic rim. Based on their current speed, they would reach the outer colonies in less than 72 hours. On Earth, President Michelle Adams was in the middle of a budget meeting when her aide rushed in with the news. The color drained from her face as she read the report. She immediately called for an emergency session of the Defense Council. General Peter Stone arrived first, followed by Admiral Karen Wells. Both looked grim as they studied the intelligence data from Meridian Station. The enemy fleet was spread across dozens of light years, moving in perfect formation. No human technology could coordinate such a massive force across such distances. "What are we dealing with?" President Adams asked. "Unknown aliens with technology, far beyond ours," Admiral Wells replied. "Our entire combined fleet has maybe 300 ships. They have 10,000. Captain Ryan Brooks was conducting training exercises with the Third Fleet when the alert came through. He immediately ordered all ships to return to base and began emergency preparations. His pilots looked nervous as they received their briefings. Many had never seen real combat. Now they faced an enemy that could destroy humanity without breaking a sweat. The alien message arrived 18 hours later. It came on every communication frequency simultaneously, in perfect human languages. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking with absolute certainty. "I am Supreme Coordinator Vexithari of the Dominion. We have conquered half this galaxy and absorbed 12 species into our collective. You will surrender immediately and join us willingly. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. You have 72 hours to comply." The message played on every screen across human space. Children in schools stopped their lessons to watch. Workers in factories stood frozen at their stations. Soldiers gripped their weapons tighter, knowing they were facing impossible odds. Lisa watched the broadcast from Meridian Station and felt sick. She had dedicated her life to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Now it seemed that knowledge would die with her species. The quantum anomalies she studied suddenly seemed meaningless compared to the vast alien armada approaching Earth. Jake gathered his security team and began preparing the station's defenses. They had only basic weapons and shields designed to handle asteroids and space debris. Against an advanced alien fleet, they might as well throw rocks. But Jake had never backed down from a fight, even an unwinnable one. President Adams addressed the nation that evening. She spoke calmly, but her words carried the weight of humanity's darkest hour. "We face an enemy unlike any in human history. They offer us slavery disguised as mercy. They promise survival in exchange for our freedom. But humanity has never bowed to tyrants, no matter how powerful. We will not start now." Across human space, families hugged each other tighter. Some people panicked and tried to flee to the outer colonies. Others volunteered for military service knowing they would probably die but refusing to go quietly. Children asked their parents if the monsters from space were real. Parents struggled to find words of comfort they didn't believe themselves. Captain Brooks received his orders that night. The Earth Defense Fleet would make its stand at the Titan shipyards, humanity's most important military installation. It was a strategic position but also symbolic. If they fell there, Earth itself would be defenseless. Lisa couldn't sleep that night. She kept running calculations, trying to find some advantage humanity might have overlooked. The aliens possessed faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, and ships that dwarfed anything humans had built. Their coordination suggested advanced artificial intelligence or some form of collective consciousness. Every scenario she imagined ended the same way. But as she studied the quantum anomalies around Meridian Station, something nagged at her scientific mind. The energy patterns were too regular, too purposeful. They didn't behave like natural phenomena. Someone or something had created them deliberately. The question was who and why. Dawn broke over Earth as the countdown entered its final day. Humanity had 60 hours left to live as a free species. In military bases across the solar system, soldiers prepared for battles they couldn't win. On research stations like Meridian, scientists worked frantically to find any technological edge. In homes and schools, ordinary people tried to continue their lives while the galaxy's most powerful predators closed in for the kill. The Dominion fleet continued its steady approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had crushed dozens of civilizations exactly like this one. The humans would surrender or die. Either outcome was acceptable. After all, resistance was futile against such obvious strength, but Supreme Coordinator Vexithari had never encountered a species quite like humanity before. He was about to learn that some prey fought back in ways that defied all logic and calculation. The first human colonies died in silence. The Dominion fleet struck 3 outer settlements without warning, turning bustling mining operations into clouds of radioactive dust. Commander Jake Morrison watched the destruction from Meridian Station, his hands clenched into fists as he studied the tactical displays. "They're not even trying to capture anything," he told Lisa as she joined him in the command center. "They're just killing everyone to make a point." Lisa nodded grimly. She had been analyzing the attack patterns for hours, trying to understand the enemy's strategy. The aliens moved with perfect precision, their ships coordinated across impossible distances. No human fleet could maintain such tight formation while spread across multiple star systems. "There has to be some kind of central control system," she said. No individual commanders could coordinate this well. Captain Ryan Brooks led the evacuation of Kepler Colony, one of humanity's newest settlements. His ships worked desperately to load civilians while long-range sensors tracked the approaching Dominion forces. Mothers clutched crying babies as they rushed toward transport ships. Fathers stayed behind to help with the loading, knowing they might never see their families again. "All ships, this is Brooks," he broadcast to his small fleet. "We have 30 minutes before the aliens arrive. Get everyone you can and get out." The evacuation ships lifted off just as the first enemy vessels appeared at the edge of the system. Brooks watched through his ship's cameras as the colony's buildings vanished in brilliant flashes of energy. Thousands of people who couldn't reach the transport ships died in seconds. On Earth, Dr. Alex Chen worked frantically in his laboratory. The government had given him access to the only piece of Dominion technology humanity possessed, a small fragment recovered from an ancient battlefield. The metallic shard hummed with strange energy, its surface covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "It's definitely quantum-based," Alex told his assistant as they ran another scan. "But the quantum field patterns are unlike anything in our physics textbooks. They're using entanglement on a scale we thought was impossible." President Michelle, Adams hadn't slept in 2 days. Reports flooded in from across human space as more colonies fell to the alien advance. Each attack followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, complete destruction, no survivors. The Dominion seemed determined to prove that resistance was hopeless. General Peter Stone presented the latest casualty reports at the Emergency Council meeting. 15 colonies destroyed. Over 2 million civilians dead. The aliens were advancing, faster than expected, crushing every defense humanity could mount. At this rate, they'll reach Earth in 40 hours, Stone said. We need to consider evacuation protocols for the home system. No, President Adams replied firmly. We don't abandon Earth. If we're going to die as a species, we die fighting. For our home. Admiral Karen Wells had positioned the bulk of Earth's fleet at strategic points throughout the solar system. Every available ship was pressed into service, including cargo vessels hastily fitted with weapons. It was still pathetically inadequate compared to the enemy's strength. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos volunteered for the most dangerous assignment. Intelligence suggested that the Dominion fleet used a central command ship to coordinate their attacks. If a small team could infiltrate and disable it, they might disrupt the enemy's perfect coordination. It's a suicide mission, Admiral Wells warned her. Even if you succeed, you'll never make it out alive. Better than sitting here waiting to die, Maria replied. Besides, someone has to try. Back on Meridian Station, Lisa made a breakthrough that changed everything. She had been studying the quantum anomalies for months, treating them as natural phenomena. But the latest readings suggested something impossible. The anomalies were responding to the Dominion fleet's presence. Jake, look at this, she called excitedly. The energy patterns are changing. It's like they're reacting to the alien ships. Jake studied the data on her screen. The anomalies were definitely becoming more active as the Dominion forces approached. Strange energy waves pulsed through space, growing stronger with each passing hour. Could they be some kind of defense system? He asked. Maybe. But built by who? There's no record of any civilization in this sector. Dr. Chen made his own discovery. In his Earth laboratory, the Dominion technology fragment wasn't just using quantum entanglement for communication. It was connected to something vast, a network that spanned multiple star systems. Every ship in the alien fleet was linked to this quantum web. If we could find a way to disrupt the network, he told President Adams over a secure channel, we might be able to throw their entire fleet into chaos. How do we do that? We'd need to get someone inside their command structure, plant a quantum virus directly into their central systems. President Adams thought about Colonel Santos and her volunteer team. They were already planning to infiltrate the enemy flagship. If they could carry Chen's quantum virus with them, they might have a chance. The Dominion fleet continued its methodical advance, destroying everything in its path. Supreme Coordinator Vexithari observed the human resistance, with mild interest. These creatures fought harder than most species, but the outcome was inevitable. In a few more hours, Earth would burn like all the other human worlds. Commander Morrison organized the defense of Meridian Station, knowing it was hopeless, but unwilling to surrender. His security team prepared makeshift barricades and checked their weapons one last time. If the aliens wanted this research facility, they would have to take it by force. Lisa worked frantically to understand the quantum anomalies. Her instruments detected massive energy buildups in the surrounding space. Whatever these phenomena were, they seemed to be preparing for something. She wished she had more time to study them, but time was the one thing humanity didn't have. Captain Brooks rallied the survivors from the outer colonies, organizing them into a desperate last stand. His small fleet was badly outnumbered, but they had nowhere left to run. Behind them lay Earth and everything humanity held dear. In front of them came the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. All ships, this is Brooks, he broadcast to his ragged fleet. Today we show these aliens what humans are made of. We might not win, but we'll make them remember this fight for the rest of their lives. Colonel Santos and her team made final preparations for their infiltration mission. They would use a captured alien shuttle to slip past the Dominion's defenses and board their command ship. The quantum virus was loaded into a small device that Santos wore around her neck like a pendant. Remember, Dr. Chen told her before she departed, you need to plug this directly into their main computer core. The virus will only have a few seconds to work before their security systems detect it. As the final hours ticked away, humanity prepared for its darkest moment. Across the solar system, families said goodbye to each other. Soldiers checked their weapons and tried not to think about the overwhelming odds. Scientists worked desperately on projects that might never be completed. But in the depths of space around Meridian Station, the quantum anomalies grew stronger. Ancient systems stirred to life, responding to signals that had been silent for thousands of years. Something was awakening, something that remembered the last time an unstoppable alien fleet had threatened to devour everything in its path. The Dominion approached Earth, confident in their victory. They had no idea that humanity's refusal to surrender was about to awaken forces beyond their comprehension. Captain Ryan Brooks knew he was about to die. His fleet of 30 ships faced over 1,000 Dominion vessels at the edge of Earth's solar system. The enemy formation stretched across space like a wall of death, their weapons charging with ominous energy signatures. "All ships commence attack run Alpha," Brooks commanded. "Make every shot count." The human fleet charged forward in a desperate assault. Their missiles and energy beams struck the alien shields but barely scratched the massive vessels. The Dominion responded with overwhelming firepower, turning human ships into expanding balls of flame and debris. Brooks watched his friends and comrades die around him, their final messages echoing across the communication channels. But their sacrifice bought precious time. While the aliens focused on the frontal attack, other plans moved into motion across the solar system. Dr. Lisa Grant activated the ancient systems around Meridian Station. The quantum anomalies responded to her commands, though she still didn't fully understand what she was controlling. Energy patterns that had remained stable for millennia began to shift and change. "The power readings are off the charts," Commander Jake Morrison reported. "Whatever this technology is, it's been dormant for a very long time." Lisa studied the holographic displays that materialized around the station. The symbols and interfaces were alien but somehow intuitive, as if designed to be understood by any intelligent species. Slowly, the truth began to emerge. "These aren't natural anomalies," she told Jake. "They're ruins, the remains of some kind of galactic defense network." The archaeological evidence was overwhelming. Hidden bases scattered throughout space, quantum generators the size of asteroids, weapon platforms that had been offline for thousands of years. An entire civilization had built this network to defend against something terrible. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos and her team slipped through the chaos of the battle aboard a captured alien shuttle. Their stolen ship's identification codes got them past the outer defenses, but Santos knew their luck wouldn't last long. "Target is 2 kilometers ahead," reported her pilot, Bobby Turner. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from their central core." The Dominion command ship was larger than most human cities. Its hull bristled with weapons and sensor arrays, while thousands of smaller vessels swarmed around it like metal insects. Santos felt her stomach clench as she realized the scale of what they were attempting. Helen Price, their demolitions expert, checked her equipment one final time. "If we can get to their computer core, the quantum virus should disable their coordination network, but we'll only have minutes before they adapt." Dr. Alex Chen monitored their infiltration from his laboratory on Earth. His quantum virus was designed to spread through the Dominion's entanglement network, turning their greatest strength against them. But it had never been tested against alien technology. President Michelle Adams watched the battle reports with growing despair. Captain Brooks's fleet was being systematically destroyed, and the main Dominion force hadn't even reached Earth yet. Humanity's most powerful weapons seemed like toys compared to alien technology. "Ma'am," Admiral Karen Wells reported grimly, "we're losing ships faster than projected. Brooks might not be able to hold them for another hour." "He'll hold," Adams replied with more confidence than she felt. "He has to." Colonel Santos and her team penetrated deep into the alien command ship. The corridors were vast and dimly lit, designed for beings much larger than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, pulsing with their own internal light. "Movement ahead," Bobby whispered, raising his weapon. 3 hostiles, maybe more. The Dominion troops were 8 feet tall, with multiple arms and metallic implants covering half their bodies. They moved with mechanical precision, their weapons already charging as they detected the intruders. Helen's explosives cleared the way, but the noise would bring more enemies. The team ran through twisting passages, following Santos's stolen navigation data toward the central core. Behind them, alarms began to sound throughout the massive ship. Dr. Grant made a startling discovery as she explored the ancient network. The defensive systems weren't just dormant, they were waiting. The quantum sensors had been monitoring the galaxy for millennia, programmed to activate when a specific threat pattern emerged. "Jake, I think I know what destroyed the civilization that built this," she said, her voice filled with awe and terror. "Something called the Void Collective. According to these records, they devour entire galactic civilizations. The data was fragmentary but terrifying. The Void Collective was a force of pure consumption, turning planets and stars into energy to fuel their endless expansion. They had been moving across the galaxy for millions of years, leaving nothing but empty space behind them. The Dominion isn't conquering for glory or resources, Lisa realized. They're running from something even worse. Supreme Coordinator Vex Athari commanded the Dominion fleet from his flagship's bridge. The human resistance was stronger than expected, but ultimately futile. Their small ships exploded against his shields like insects hitting a window, but something was wrong. His quantum sensors were detecting strange energy buildups throughout the system. Ancient signatures that matched records from the Forbidden, archives technology from civilizations that should have been extinct for millennia. Colonel Santos reached the command ship's central core just as Captain Brooks' fleet made its final desperate charge. The core chamber was enormous, filled with crystalline structures that hummed with quantum energy. At the center stood a pillar of living light, the heart of the Dominion's coordination network. "There," Santos pointed at an access port. "That's where the virus goes." Bobby and Helen provided covering fire as Dominion security forces poured into the chamber. Energy beams filled the air, scorching the walls and floor around the human infiltrators. Santos sprinted toward the central pillar, Dr. Chen's device clutched in her hand. The quantum virus activated the moment it touched the alien systems. Lines of code spread through the Dominion network like wildfire, exploiting vulnerabilities that Dr. Chen had identified in the captured technology fragment. For a brief moment, every ship in the massive fleet lost coordination. Vessels that had moved in perfect formation for years suddenly found themselves isolated and confused. The rigid hierarchy that controlled the Dominion war machine began to collapse. But Santos discovered something far more important than tactical advantage. As the virus spread through the enemy network, it transmitted data back to Earth, files that revealed the true scope of the galactic crisis. "Dr. Chen," she broadcast on an encrypted channel, "you need to see this. The Dominion has been fighting a running battle for centuries. They're not the biggest threat in the galaxy." The transmitted data painted a picture of cosmic horror. The Void Collective was a semi-organic machine intelligence that consumed entire star systems. It had already devoured the galactic core and was working its way outward, turning everything in its path into raw energy. Dr. Grant watched as the ancient defense network came fully online. Weapon platforms that had been silent for thousands of years began to power up across multiple star systems. The network's builders had faced the Void Collective before and built these defenses as a last resort. "The system is trying to establish communication," she told Jake. "It's asking for confirmation that the threat has returned." The quantum anomalies weren't just weapons. They were a warning system. When the Void Collective approached, they would activate the galaxy's final line of defense. But the network needed someone to activate it manually, someone willing to take responsibility for unleashing forces beyond imagination. Captain Brooks died with his ship, but his sacrifice bought humanity the time it needed. As his vessel exploded against a Dominion dreadnought, Colonel Santos completed her mission. The quantum virus spread through the enemy fleet, turning their coordination advantage into chaos. President Adams received the data transmission just as Earth's orbital defenses engaged the first wave of alien attackers. The information changed everything. Humanity wasn't facing a simple conquest. They were caught between two cosmic forces that could destroy the entire galaxy. "Get me Dr. Grant immediately," she ordered. "We need to understand what we're really dealing with." But it was too late for cautious analysis. The ancient network had detected the quantum virus spreading through Dominion systems. It recognized the signature as a sign that someone was finally ready to fight back against the galaxy's greatest enemy. Across space, sleeping giants began to wake. The last hope of a dead civilization stirred to life, waiting for humanity to prove they were worthy inheritors of the galaxy's final defense. The quantum cascade began without warning. Dr. Lisa Grant watched her instruments go wild as ancient systems activated across dozens of star systems simultaneously. Energy readings spiked beyond anything her equipment could measure, and space itself seemed to ripple with invisible forces. "What did we do?" Commander Jake Morrison asked, staring at the displays in shock. "We woke something up," Lisa replied, her voice filled with awe. "Something that's been waiting for thousands of years." The Dominion fleet scattered across multiple dimensional layers as the quantum anomalies reached critical mass. Ships that had been seconds away from Earth suddenly found themselves drifting in parallel realities, their crews confused and disoriented. Supreme Coordinator Vexathari felt panic for the first time in centuries as his flagship phased between dimensions. The orderly universe he understood was collapsing into chaos. His quantum sensors detected energy patterns that matched the most feared entries in the Dominion archives. "Impossible," he transmitted to his scattered fleet. The ethereal network was destroyed millennia ago, but the evidence was undeniable. The ancient civilization that had once ruled this galaxy was reaching out from extinction, using humanity as their instrument of resurrection. Colonel Maria Santos and her surviving team members were still aboard the Dominion command ship when the dimensional shift occurred. The massive vessel lurched through spacetime, its hull groaning under forces that shouldn't exist. "The virus worked better than we expected," Bobby Turner reported, checking his readings. "Their entire coordination network is fragmenting." Santos accessed the alien databases while their security systems remained offline. What she found there made her blood run cold. The Dominion hadn't been conquering the galaxy for power or resources. They had been fleeing in terror from something far worse. "Dr. Chen," she transmitted to Earth, "I'm sending you the complete Dominion archives. You need to see what's coming." Dr. Alex Chen received the data transmission just as his quantum virus reached full propagation. The information painted a terrifying picture of galactic history. The Void Collective wasn't just another alien empire. It was a force of pure entropy that consumed everything in its path. "President Adams," he called urgently, "the Dominion fleet isn't our biggest problem. There's something else out there. Something that's been destroying entire galactic civilizations for millions of years." President Michelle Adams studied the incoming data, while Earth's defenses engaged scattered Dominion forces. The enemy ships were fighting without coordination now, their perfect formation broken by the quantum cascade. But the victory felt hollow as she learned about the true threat approaching from the galactic core. "How long before this Void Collective reaches us?" she asked. "According to Dominion projections, maybe 50 years, Dr. Chen replied. "But that's if we can stop their advance at all." Admiral Karen Wells commanded the human fleet as they pressed their advantage against the confused enemy forces. The dimensional shifts had scattered the Dominion across multiple realities, turning their overwhelming numerical superiority into isolated pockets of resistance. "All ships, target the scattered formations," she ordered. "They can't coordinate their defenses anymore." But even as humanity celebrated their impossible victory, the ancient ethereal network was making its own plans. Dr. Grant found herself in direct communication with systems that predated human civilization by millions of years. The ethereals had been the galaxy's guardians once, a species of pure energy that built the quantum defense network as their final act. They had fought the Void Collective to a standstill before sacrificing themselves to create this last line of defense. "You are the inheritors we hoped for," the ancient voice spoke directly into Lisa's mind. "Your species possesses the quantum signature we programmed into our systems. You can complete what we began." The network showed her visions of galactic history. Countless civilizations rising and falling, each one eventually consumed by the Void Collective's endless hunger. The ethereals had been the last to stand against the darkness, and now humanity would have to take their place. Colonel Santos discovered the location of the Void Collective's main force while exploring the Dominion archives. The enemy was still years away from human space, but their scout forces were already probing the outer galaxies. The Dominion's desperate flight had actually led them directly into the Collective's path. They're not evil, she realized as she studied the records. They're terrified. They've been running for so long they forgot how to do anything else. Supreme Coordinator Vexithari materialized on the bridge of Santos's captured shuttle through a quantum transmission. His holographic form flickered with dimensional instability, but his message was clear. Human, you have activated forces beyond your comprehension. The ethereal network will consume this galaxy to stop the Void Collective. Then we need to find another way, Santos replied firmly. One that doesn't require genocide. Dr. Grant worked frantically to understand the ethereal technology. The network was designed to create a quantum barrier around the galaxy, sealing it off from the Void Collective's advance. But the energy requirements were enormous. It would drain the life force from every inhabited world. There has to be another option, she told the ancient systems. The ethereals built this network to preserve life, not destroy it. The response came in the form of complex equations and energy patterns. The network could be modified, but it would require a level of cooperation unprecedented in galactic history. Every intelligent species would need to contribute their quantum signatures to create a new type of barrier. President Adams received the proposal just as the last Dominion forces in the solar system surrendered. Instead of celebrating humanity's victory, she found herself facing an even greater challenge. "You're asking me to trust our former enemies," she said during the emergency council meeting, "to work together with beings who were trying to exterminate us hours ago." General Peterstone voiced what everyone was thinking. "Ma'am, we don't have a choice. If this Void Collective is as dangerous as the data suggests, we need every ally we can get." The quantum cascade continued to spread across the galaxy, awakening ethereal installations that had been dormant for millennia. Each activation sent ripples through space-time, alerting both the scattered Dominion forces and the approaching Void Collective scouts. Admiral Wells established communication with Dominion commanders across multiple dimensional layers. The enemy ships were stranded and vulnerable, their crews desperate for any chance of survival. "This is Admiral Wells of the Earth Defense Fleet," she broadcast. "We're prepared to offer assistance, but we need to talk." The response came from dozens of Dominion vessels simultaneously. Their voices carried centuries of exhaustion and fear. "We accept your terms, human, but know that cooperation may doom us all. The Void Collective does not distinguish between conqueror and conquered." Dr. Chen worked with Colonel Santos to establish a direct link between human and Dominion technology. The quantum virus had done more than disrupt their coordination. It had created a bridge between their systems and the ethereal network. "We can modify their ships," he explained to President Adams, "turn their quantum entanglement network into part of the galactic defense grid, but we'll need their willing cooperation." The first joint human-Dominion mission launched within hours. Captain Brooks's surviving pilots worked alongside former enemies to establish communication relays throughout the solar system. The cooperation was awkward and tentative, but it was a beginning. Dr. Grant made the final breakthrough as Earth's sun set on humanity's longest day. The ethereal network didn't just require cooperation, it rewarded it. Species that worked together could amplify each other's quantum signatures, creating barriers far stronger than any individual civilization could manage. "It's elegant," she told Jake as they watched human and Dominion ships working side by side. "The ethereals designed their network to encourage unity. The more species that join willingly, the more powerful the defense becomes." But time was running short. The quantum cascade had alerted the Void Collective to the network's activation. Their scout forces were already changing course, accelerating their approach to investigate the disturbance. Humanity's last stand had become something no one expected, the foundation for the galaxy's greatest alliance. The species that should have been extinct was instead uniting former enemies against a threat that could destroy them all. The real battle was just beginning. 6 months later, the impossible had become reality. Human and Dominion ships worked together in formations that would have been unthinkable during the war. Dr. Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the joint research vessel Unity, watching as the first quantum beacon came online in the Andromeda sector. Beacon 7 is operational, reported Commander Jake Morrison from his new position as Director of Galactic Security. We now have coverage across 40% of the Outer Rim. The Quantum Beacon Network was humanity's greatest achievement, born from ethereal technology and powered by willing cooperation between former enemies. Each beacon required representatives from multiple species to operate, their combined quantum signatures creating barriers that even the Void Collective couldn't penetrate. Supreme Coordinator Vexithari materialized on the bridge through a holographic communicator. The proud alien leader had changed dramatically since their first meeting. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something humans recognized as hope. The Void Collective scouts have been repelled from the Kepler sector, he reported. Your beacon network is holding stronger than our most optimistic projections. President Michelle Adams had been re-elected in a landslide, her leadership during humanity's darkest hour, earning her a permanent place in galactic history. She now served as the first Director General of the Galactic Alliance, a position created specifically for her by unanimous vote. How many species have joined the Alliance? She asked during the daily briefing. 17 confirmed members with 12 more requesting admission, replied Admiral Karen Wells, now serving as military coordinator for the joint fleets. The network grows stronger every day. Dr. Alex Chen had become the galaxy's leading expert on quantum cascade technology. His virus had evolved into something far more beneficial, a communication protocol that allowed different species to share knowledge instantly across vast distances. We're not just building defenses anymore, he explained to a gathering of alien scientists. We're creating the first truly unified galactic civilization. Colonel Maria Santos commanded the elite rapid response teams that investigated Void Collective incursions. Her mixed crews of humans and former Dominion soldiers had developed tactics that no single species could have imagined. Team Alpha, we have contact in the Vega system, she announced during a training exercise. Void Collective probe detected near the 4th planet. The response was immediate and coordinated. Human ships provided speed and maneuverability, while Dominion vessels contributed firepower and shields. Together, they formed a combat force that had never lost an engagement against Void Collective scouts. Bobby Turner and Helen Price had founded the Galactic Engineering Corps, teaching alien species how to build and maintain quantum beacons. Their students included beings from dozens of different worlds, all working toward the same goal of galactic survival. The beauty of this technology, Helen explained to a class of mixed species, is that it gets stronger when different quantum signatures work together. The ethereals designed it to reward cooperation. Dr. Grant had made the most important discovery of all. Deep within the ethereal archives, she found records of other galaxies that had successfully defended themselves against the Void Collective. The key was always the same: unity among diverse species. The Void Collective isn't unstoppable, she announced at the Galactic Science Council. They can only consume civilizations that fight alone. When species unite, they become immune to the Collective's feeding process. The proof came during the Battle of Centauri Prime. A full Void Collective invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace, expecting to find scattered resistance from primitive species. Instead, they encountered a coordinated defense by 15 different civilizations. The battle lasted 3 days and ended in humanity's greatest victory. The Void Collective forces retreated for the first time in recorded history, their feeding tendrils unable to penetrate the quantum barriers created by willing Alliance members. Captain Ryan Brooks had been posthumously promoted to Admiral and honored with the creation of the Brooks Institute for Tactical Innovation. His sacrifice during humanity's last stand became the inspiration for a new generation of galactic defenders. Supreme Coordinator Vexithari officially disbanded the Dominion during a ceremony on Earth. Standing beside President Adams, he announced the creation of the Cooperative Collective, dedicated to mutual aid and galactic defense. We were wrong to believe that strength came from conquest, he admitted to the assembled delegates. Humanity taught us that true power comes from unity and sacrifice for others. The quantum beacon network continued to expand, now covering 75% of the galaxy. Each new beacon required careful coordination between multiple species, creating bonds of trust and cooperation that grew stronger with time. Dr. Grant stood in the memorial garden built around Meridian Station, now converted into the Galactic Research Center. The quantum anomalies that had started everything still pulsed with ancient energy, but they no longer seemed mysterious. They were a gift from a dead civilization to the living galaxy. The Ethereals would be proud, Commander, Morrison said, joining her at the memorial wall. They built their network hoping someone would use it to bring peace instead of war. President Adams addressed the Galaxy Assembly on the first anniversary of humanity's last stand. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Great Hall, their varied forms a testament to the diversity that had become their greatest strength. 1 year ago, humanity faced extinction, she began. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and had no reasonable hope of survival. But we refused to surrender, and that refusal saved not just our species, but this entire galaxy. The assembled delegates, beings of crystal and energy, metal and flesh, forms that defied human understanding, rose in unanimous approval. The applause echoed through translation devices in hundreds of languages, a symphony of gratitude from across the stars. Dr. Chen had established the Quantum Communication Network, allowing instant coordination between alliance members across galactic distances. The technology that had once enslaved the Dominion now freed every species to share knowledge and resources without delay. Information wants to be shared, he explained during the network's inauguration. When we hoard knowledge, we weaken ourselves. When we share it freely, we all become stronger. Admiral Wells commanded the largest fleet in galactic history, not for conquest, but for defense and exploration. Her ships carried scientists and diplomats alongside soldiers, spreading the Alliance's message of cooperation to the furthest reaches of space. The Void Collective still lurked beyond the galactic rim, but they no longer advanced. The quantum barrier network had created something they couldn't consume, a unified galactic civilization that grew stronger through diversity rather than weaker through division. Colonel Santos established the first Academy for Galactic Cooperation on Luna, Earth's moon. Students from every member species learned alongside each other, developing new technologies and tactics that no single civilization could have imagined. Diversity is our superpower, she taught her mixed classes. Every species sees problems differently, and every perspective makes us better at solving them. The memorial to humanity's last stand became the galaxy's most visited site. Beings from across the stars came to honor the small species that had refused to surrender, even when facing impossible odds. Dr. Grant often walked through the memorial gardens, thinking about the day that changed everything. Humanity had been hours from extinction when they chose to fight back. That choice had awakened ancient allies and united former enemies. We weren't the strongest species, she reflected, during an interview for the Galactic Archives. We weren't the smartest or most advanced, but we were stubborn enough to keep fighting when everyone else had given up, and sometimes that's enough. The Quantum Beacon Network reached completion 5 years after the first battle. The entire galaxy was now protected by barriers maintained, through willing cooperation between hundreds of species. The Void Collective scouts no longer approached, turning their attention to easier targets in distant galaxies. President Adams retired to write her memoirs, but her legacy lived on in the Galactic Alliance that bore her name. The institution she had created would outlast any individual species, a permanent guarantee that no civilization would face extinction alone. Humanity's last stand had become the foundation stone of galactic civilization. The species that almost died had instead taught the galaxy how to truly live.